tracks where the Honda's worked, he has been competitive. There's only Marc Marquez at the tracks where the bike doesn't work. Marc Marquez can get special things out of that Honda, but the other riders can't. So it's working around here. He'll be fine. He's
and we heard from Scott Redding as well. We haven't really mentioned much about him. Obviously making the move to Aprilia and taking Sam Lowe's ride effectively, but he seems to be pretty chirpy this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget he's the youngest ever Grand Prix winner.
Yep.
Okay, that was a different racetrack, but we know Scott's got all the talent. We just see if he can put it together this weekend and go good for the home crowd.
Exactly, that's what they're expecting. This man, plenty of fans still at every single track we go to, of course, to the Doctor. Let's cross over and have this session now with Julian and with Keith.
Thank you very much, Susie, as we kick off with this FP4 session. It's going to be a great session, I'm sure, but the main reason for that is that we are delighted to say that we've had Kevin Schwantz join us here in the box, a bit of a legend in all our minds. Afternoon, Kevin, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Great to be here.
Enjoying the atmosphere of our Nissan hut that we're in.
The luxury.
You guys live large, no doubt.
So for younger viewers, the 1993 world champion on a 500 Suzuki, one of the legends of Grand Prix, and a man who stuck with Suzuki through thick and thin and is still one of their ambassadors now, I think. Kevin, you rode the 8-8 and everything.
He's doing more work now than he did then.
I know.
The days are a whole lot longer now.
Where did you go last night?
Birmingham, to see a dealer called Street Bike.
Ah, drove yourself up there as well?
Drove down.
No chauffeur?
No chauffeur. You know, it's a tough living now.
You must still be enjoying life, though, and as a Suzuki ambassador. You had a ride-in on Friday as well here, brought a load of fans in.
Went to Smart Sausage in the morning. Smart Sausage. Smart Sausage?
Super Sausage.
Super Sausage in the morning. I knew Smart Sausage didn't sound right. Stopped there, had breakfast, took a bunch of pictures, signed some autographs with a bunch of motorcyclists that were there, and admired the food, that's for sure.
Still enjoying life. Of course, we couldn't make the... we've got two Texans now in the camp here. You must both be phoning home quite a lot at the moment.
Yeah, we've got a bit of weather happening at home, and it's it's getting a little bit close into Austin, and I think Colin up in Conroe, I think they're going to get the brunt of it. It's gonna stick around and rain for 4 or 5 days and be lots of flooding. Hopefully the wind's not going to be a huge issue, but there's always a chance for those tornadoes to pop down and do a little destruction as well.
Well, we wish all of you and your family best of luck, I think, for Texas.
Yeah, good luck to especially everybody at the coast. You know, I hope everybody's heeded warnings and left and headed to higher ground, because it's gonna get deep down there.
Amen. And for my Suzuki GSX owning friends, I'd just like to confirm for viewers that Kevin Schwantz is in fact wearing Suzuki socks. This is important. You need to know this.
Yellow ones, though.
Yeah,
Old school. Motocross.
Motocross.
I was going to say, definitely not road racing. They still doing the free line, are they, the motocross kids?
They are. You know, they try and do everything they can to try and influence those kids at a real young age.
While these guys get themselves all up to speed, what are you doing nowadays? We're looking at the two Suzukis in shot. What are you doing back at home nowadays? What's going on? What's your life? What's it led to? We don't hear so much about Kevin anymore.
You know, just trying to help Suzuki promote this new GSX-R 1000 that they built. What a great street bike it is, and it's turning into be a great race bike too. The American Championship, Suzuki's are dominating there. We got Tony Elias just about to sew up the championship. They're racing this weekend in Pittsburgh. World Endurance, we didn't quite win the World Championship at Suzuka, but you know, it's the new 2017 GSX-R 1000 is something that we're doing our best to race and dominate the world with.
And in your view, Moto America, obviously Wayne Rainey's series, I'll call it Wayne Rainey series for want of a better phrase. How's that going? Are we going to have some new young Americans drifting this way? There was a time, obviously, when there was loads of you, but now we don't have any.
You know, it's Wayne's doing a great job with that championship, and they're doing all they can to get the manufacturers involved, and they got a pretty decent TV package now, but until we start selling huge numbers of GSX-Rs, and so the same with Yamahas and Kawasaki's and Hondas, I don't think the manufacturers are going to get in and support the racing like they have in the past. There's not that huge influx of money. You know, and young kids now don't seem to be as interested in two wheels. You know, it's more video games, and why do I want to ride one of those when I could play that game on the computer and not have to worry about getting hurt? So I don't know what we need to do as far as an industry goes to try and entice young kids to get excited about motorcycling again.
American Talent Cup, maybe.
You know, that's something that we've got a British Talent Cup, we've got an Asian Talent Cup. You know, I think it's definitely an opportunity for us in America to start one ourselves, and maybe with a little support from Dorna, try and find and start grooming those new young American kids.
Can we talk about the GSX-RR out on track, Iannone? I mean, I don't know how connected you are with the race department, but that's not turned out quite the way all of us would have thought or hoped.
You know, if we go back a year, we were here. Maverick Viñales dominated the British Grand Prix on this very motorcycle, and it hasn't gotten us the results that we were expecting from it this year. Iannone and Rins have been a bit beat up. Maybe without Rins there, Iannone's not had that motivation that he really needs to try and push every lap. And right now, all the opportunity that we have to test and practice and every lap of qualifying everything is of utmost importance to us. And how about Alex Rins riding up the side of Marc Marquez there down the front straightaway?
He's in the right place to learn there, isn't he? And he's the fastest man on track with a 2:02.2.
I think Rins, since he's got over that injury, has looked really feisty this year.
Injuries, I think he had a bad injury pre-season from the first test. Then he had that horrible arm injury from Kota. And the team very wisely said, do not come back until you are fit. And he's looked great.
Actually, he didn't even ride Kota. He fell off and hurt his leg before the start of the season. Then he crashed in Argentina and banged his ankle and something else up again. And then they just said, okay, take some time off and get well.
Yeah, so he was 9th in the first race of the year.
Top rookie.
Top rookie, and his next race was Assen.
That's what Suzuki did well with him. They didn't put him out. I mean, we're at the moment, we're all bitching a little bit, I suppose, here with regards to the Sam Lowe's treatment. But if we look across at Suzuki, the way they looked after Rins, they didn't put him under pressure to make a comeback until he was ready to come back and to fight for it. And that management has really brought him on well. He's come back fit. They've kind of given him the tools. But what about Andrea Iannone? That's what I want to get your opinion on, how he's performed this year, how he's gone about his business.
You know, I said some stuff at Saxon Ring about he's underperforming by far. You know, we really expected a lot. We all know how fast Andrea Iannone can be. He's riding a blue motorcycle called a Suzuki now. He's not riding a Ducati anymore, and he needs to exercise the strengths of the Suzuki. You know, the handling of it. Maybe not worry about so much about the horsepower of it. Try and get the bike through the center of the corner. Do what a Suzuki does best. A little bit of braking, getting in, and try and carry corner speed and set up passes and try and get to the front of races. And I just think Andrea is lacking some confidence right now. I don't spend enough time in the team to know exactly what's going on in his head, whether it's private life, whether it's racetrack life, what's going on. But we need our bike further up the grid, that's for sure.
What's changed on this bike this year?
It's got a little bit more power, otherwise it's the same.
Interesting.
What the question is, as you said 12 months ago, we were all saying, good Lord, this motorcycle is beautiful, it's the most user-friendly one out there, it steers, it's easy, and we were looking at Maverick and we were not listening to Alicia Spargaro, who had a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, it's you know, and then you see Aleix, what he's doing on the Aprilia this year, and it's pretty amazing to see. Both Aprilia and KTM have done a great job this season, and you know, they're fielding some very competitive motorcycles. And you know, our Suzuki, I think, should be right up there mixing it up with the rest of the factory bikes, and we're not.
Rookies. We love two rookies in the Tech 3 team. I mean, Hervé Poncharal is a fantastic character anyway, and at one time it looked like he might lose the Monster sponsorship because he went with rookies and no names as far as their sponsor was concerned. Obviously, it's a satellite team. He picks on Folger, who he wanted for a long time, and then Zarco comes along. What do you make of the performance of both the riders and the team, particularly?
Outstanding. Unbelievable. And like you said, Hervé's got a real knack for picking riders, and you know, he put two rookies on his team, and I think we all kind of scratched our heads and said, really?
I don't think he had a choice, did he? There was nobody left, I don't think.
Yeah, is he doing the right thing? And I think, you know, taking a gamble and seeing what some rookies can do for you has really paid off for him. And seeing the black bikes in front of the blue bikes as often as the blue bikes are in front of the black bikes, to me, is impressive. They've done a great job.
Going to jump in because Alex Rins is still shadowing Marquez on this run here and really doing a nice looking job. He doesn't look the same Rins who was on Moto 2. He's adapted, it seems to me, beautifully.
Just about the same lap time as he'd done before.
We've got a rule.
Consistency that he's showing is amazing.
We've got a rule around here, you know, we don't put two Texans in one porta cabin. So we've got one on the inside of Cops Corner. How are we doing, Tornado?
Yeah, we're doing good. I'm sitting out here just having a look. Bautista just run out. You know, that super slow camera angle that we normally get. See all the big patter, all the bumps coming through turn one. It ain't that bad, to be honest with you. When you're standing here watching it real time, they just fly by. A couple guys running wide, though. You know, I don't know what tires they're running. Obviously getting a race pace, getting race tires ready. A few of them running wide pretty early. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Colin. I wonder what the weather's like out there. It was warming up when we came in here, and that's going to make a difference. Yesterday was such a beautiful day. We were wondering how that would translate through to Saturday's qualifying. I mean, this FP4, it's always one of those sessions where you can't be 100% sure what each and every machine or manufacturer or rider is actually trying out. This track, what do you make of Silverstone? What would you prefer out of Silverstone and Donington is a favourite fan's question.
You know,
I think I know that already.
I've never raced a motorcycle here, so all I can tell you is that I ran around it 2 laps the other day. It absolutely killed me yesterday.
That must have been the ripples that are on about.
Oh, yeah. You know, it seemed smooth to me running around it, but it's a long lap. It's a complicated lap. You know, it is fairly flat, but that doesn't mean that there's just enough rise in some of the spots where you really can't quite see the apex of the corner. There's some things that you really got to have your timing down and know where you're at on the racetrack to put a good lap together.
But fast.
And very, very fast. You know, I still have to say that Donington Park is one of my favorite racetracks of all time. It's the sequence of corners from Redgate all the way to McLean's all tie themselves together so well that a guy who can really put together a good lap is going to benefit from a place like that.
There's talk of, obviously, Silverstone versus Donington now that MSVR have got the rights, 21 years of lease on Donington Park. That's the Jonathan Palmer group that have bought their way into Donington Park. I mean, you had some fantastic rides around there. Comparison-wise, I mean, spectator-wise, we hear that Donington's perhaps a slightly better place to spectate at, but a lot of the riders here in pit lane, you must talk to them about how they rate Silverstone. It's thought of quite highly as a track here, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody that I've talked to said they really like it. On Thursday, some guys really talking about bumps, that it seems to have gotten a bit bumpier, but racetracks do that with age. You know, you race cars and you race this and you race that there, you race motorcycles. You know, you're going to get bumps, and that's, I still think, where the really good riders are able to find their way around the bumps, through the bumps, over the bumps, get the bike set up, and go just as fast as they can every lap.
Saw Maverick Vinales running a little wide there. He started off brilliantly at the beginning of this year, but then it all started to drift away from him very slightly. We've been wondering why that may have been. They've been making changes to that Yamaha chassis that doesn't seem to have suited him or the doctor. I mean, have you seen anything in Vinales' performance this year? Any reason why he's just drifted away from that quick pace that he had early on?
No, I watched the first 2 races of the season, and I was like, this is really going to be boring. You know, the factory Yamahas look to be in a different league, and both Rossi and Vinales have really struggled with it, and the private Yamahas always seem, you know, the Hervé Poncharal bikes have always seemed to run a little bit softer tire and get away with it and make it work to, you know, maybe not to the very end of the race, but at least, you know, keeping themselves up in the top 5 or 6. And to see Rossi and Vinales 6th and 7th or 7th and 8th, but they were in Austria.
6th and 7th.
6th and 7th is a big surprise to me.
Zarco's been a revelation. I mean, his throttle control must be absolutely superb, the way he can carry pace with that soft tyre in all of the time for as long as he can. But he doesn't do, I think I'm right in saying, Zarco doesn't do motocross training or any of those things because his management and he have worked to plan out that he wants to be gentle on a motorcycle. He wants to be smooth on a motorcycle. He deems motocross as being too aggressive for his style on a road race bike. What do you make of that?
You know, I think to a certain extent that's probably correct. But it's funny because when I go ride a motorcycle, people say, you know, you're not the typical aggressive motocross guy. You're one that makes nice, smooth lines out of things, and you make it look almost effortless. But the heart rate monitor doesn't tell me that. You know, and if Zarco finds that's what's worked for him, I think some of the worst training that people can do is supermoto, because that's all you want to do is be aggressive, back the thing in, slide it everywhere, push the front. And, you know, there's always that opportunity, as we saw with Max Biaggi a month or so ago, to really get beat up doing that.
KTM and Aprilia come to the fore, as Suzuki did a year or two before them. What are your progress report on Aprilia and KTM's performances?
Oh, I walked down the pit lane with MCN the other day, and we kind of rated all the factories and how they'd done. And I just, you know, a manufacturer like KTM that says, you know what, we had never really done much in dirt bike racing, however many years ago it was that they hired Ryan Dungey and Roger DeCoster, and right now, if you say motocross, it's orange. You know, anything off-road, motocross, enduro, KTM's done a great job.
Rally raid, all the stuff, yeah.
And the same thing here. You know, I didn't expect them to come into MotoGP racing and flounder around at the back of the field. I think that KTM team's a place you'll see one of the big-name riders go sometime soon.
That's interesting. Casey Stoner was quite critical recently as well. So when you've got the likes of Kevin Schwantz and Casey Stoner speaking in the way they are, KTM is on the move, perhaps.
Their sponsor, of course, is able to afford one of the big-name riders.
There you go. And Aprilia has done a great job. You know, I think on a much smaller scale. Those guys have fielded a motorcycle. Lowe's maybe hadn't shown the full potential of it, but it sure seems like Alicia Spargaro has gotten comfortable on the bike. I think electronics, they might be one of the better packages out there right now. And as a race bike, they're showing it.
And it makes the tire last. At the end of a race, that Aprilia charges.
12 and a half minutes of FP4 if you've just joined us. My name's Keith Ewan, alongside me Julian Ryder, and in the middle Kevin Schwantz is the name of the Texan that's joined us here in the commentary box at the moment. The other one, Colin Edwards, is out by trackside keeping an eye on what's happening in this session as we move through to qualifying 1 and 2. Coming up live here on BT Sport, Danny Pedrosa, who's just gone through your picture. Now that's a question I've got to ask you, Kevin. Danny Pedrosa, 17th, 18th fastest in the free practices. This morning was cold and not conducive, but only 17th fastest yesterday when the day was perfect here. What's going on with Danny?
You know, I'm not sure. I was watching Maverick. I was watching Marc Marquez pretty close yesterday morning, and he rides that motorcycle so loose over the bumps. It's moving.
Reminds me of somebody.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who, Keith. It'll come to me shortly.
That Sea God and what was it again?
Yes.
We've got the Ducati stopped again. Lorenzo's bike.
Not a happy Jorge.
And that's a long way from home.
I
don't even know where that is. That's a different county, isn't it?
It is.
It is literally. Buckinghamshire. It is literally. Did you know that before you said it?
I did not.
That's in Buckinghamshire where that part of the track is.
We're in
Northamptonshire where we are. I can't believe that.
He's only got 11 minutes. If he's going to have to run the... Well, I know it took me 31 minutes to run around this place.
You have to get a bus from there normally.
Yeah. Well, that's the F1 pits. And there are literally buses laid on when we use that from the car park.
Look, he's getting ready, though. He's got his leathers unzipped. He's going to try and stay cool and get back in less than 10:53, 10:52.
Our other Texan is in Northamptonshire. Colin, how's it going?
Yeah, going good. I hope Jorge brought us past. He's going to need it to get back in. I'm out here at turn 1 again. Quite a few guys actually came into the pit, which tells me they really don't know which tires they're going to use for the race. Be it medium or hard. We know Marquez went out and tried some hard this morning or yesterday. So as we have a look at Jorge, yeah, he needs his pass to get back in here. All looking good here, though. Guys are getting a little bit wiggly, a little bit of spinning coming out of turn 1, but, you know, nothing out of the norm. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Colin. I'll tell you what. You heard Kevin Schwantz had trouble running around this racetrack. He wasn't doing it in full leathers. You wouldn't want to run too sharply because if your airbag goes off, you're going to get a shock.
Oh, yeah.
The standard step by Marc Marquez at COTA the other year, of course, for a short shot sprint in full kit.
Did we hear what happened to the 99 yesterday? Did you just run out of fuel, or?
Well, we guessed at that, but no, I haven't heard exactly what happened with that, but he wasn't happy yesterday either. So yes, folks, if you weren't watching yesterday, this is the second occasion Jorge's found himself having a walk his way back, although last time it was only at the end of this pit lane in the national straight. That's the international straight. That's the Formula One wing, as it's known over there, Kevin. That's
I saw those empty garages. I said, I wonder why we can't use those.
There's not enough of them, and it's not big enough space out the back to put all our infrastructure, unfortunately, across 3 classes.
We tried it once.
It was awful.
It was awful.
Truly awful.
Interesting shot there just a minute ago. Rossi with Iannone in his shadow. Be interesting to see if Andrea's gone from 22nd to 11th in that one lap.
Yeah.
And see if he can move up again.
Danny looking like he's making it dance at the rear end.
He's down in 21st in this session, so whatever happened in regular free practice, Keith, it looks like it's still afflicting Danny here in FP4.
Well, when you've got Marquez being able to do what he does and Cal Crutchlow quickest out the lot of them, you've got to wonder why Danny's Honda isn't quite working the way he wants it to.
And he was podium last time out, let's not forget.
Tell you what, cops and those ripples on the way in there.
Yeah.
If you can see them, and a rider sure can feel them. There goes one Ducati. Yeah, scrape the belly pan. No, got one in the right.
Cheshire, please, driver.
Lots of guys, 43 and the 38, have laps cancelled for exceeding limits.
Yeah, you see the information we get. That's Bradley Smith, 38.
Never happened in your day. You could do what you wanted.
He exceeded every limit there ever was, including the one of adhesion,
You could use the gravel, the grass, whatever you wanted.
I think he did. Life
This is
after
a quick
Kevin Schwab.
duo again. Look at this. Iannone is on the back of the Doctor, who is on schedule just to be quicker than Marquez. At the end of the session, Marquez is on an outlap, so there is time to go.
Thing about Rossi's run that he's running at the moment, he's running the hards front and rear, and you've seen him do some mileage on those today and yesterday actually, so the hards look good.
That feels like race setup, does it?
It looked like Jack Miller getting in the mix there. No, it's Tito Rabat getting in behind Rossi.
Iannone to 5th.
Tito's kind of having a little flash here and there this year now. Here's Cal Crutchlow, so keep an eye on this man. Great colours, eh?
They really are. Those are Aaron Slight colors, aren't they?
They are. Well, they are also your mates.
that probably.
You said it on purpose. I say we hadn't got
those are Aaron Slight and Colin Edwards colors.
If you said if that camera was up here, then it was a proper Kevin Schwantz joke. Warm-ups live tomorrow, 9:45 a.m. BT Sport. Sorry, Jules. BT Sport 2 HD. MotoGP race live tomorrow, 3:15 p.m. BT Sport 2 HD. Join us for everything live, every lap, uninterrupted, all the way through. This is Cal Crutchlow. Nice shot of his little beard.
That's a beard.
Not by your standards, but slightly more fashionable, maybe.
Pedrosa up to 15th. And Jorge
still
is
running.
back.
He's got 6.5 minutes.
He did that in 4 minutes.
Now he got a lift.
And
It's still that's a decent pace on a scooter, I'd say.
I think he purloined somebody, David Sardozzi at the back there, standing there with his arms folded.
Oh, the second bike is obviously not...
I'm going to say...
Got to be ready, surely.
That's not it, is it?
Well, off come
Tires
the tyre warmers.
Tires aren't warm. I think maybe what he got told.
Oh, they've got a hard front and a soft rear. That may well work. Can't believe he was just told that they hadn't got them in tyre warmers.
The warmers were on, but for how long?
Well, they would have been on in the race.
Since the other one
so.
stopped, yeah.
There was something he wasn't happy about with, obviously, he was told about that motorbike.
Well, maybe he didn't want that hard front in it. Who
Sam
knows?
Lowe's has done a 2:03.2 and gone to 18th in the session. That's a nice little perk for Samuel.
Look at Tito following the Doctor round. Tito's having a proper little go in this FP4.
Tito, you know, he's scored a lot of points this year. Look at Rabat,
All the way
top
to
10.
9th.
Yeah.
The Honda does seem to work round here. Oh, it works, Cal.
I'll tell you what,
honestly.
yeah, it's hard work. Cal Crutchlow bounces it in. And look at the time Crutchlow's on, though. He's into the 4th sector now, this long, wait for it, then fire the gun when it gets on the fat bit. This is the old Woodcote once you get to this part. I remember them catch fences out there to the left where there's now tarmac.
Quickest.
Yeah, he was going that way,
But
wasn't he?
only probably until Dovizioso gets round.
Dovi, well, it depends how his sector 4 is. Let's see how the Ducati launches out of Woodcote onto the national pit straight.
You suspect well.
You would think, yeah. Tell you what,
Only
200th
just.
of a second.
Only just. Lost a bit.
It is only FP4.
Nothing like being at the top of the screen, though, is
That's
it?
true.
The top 8, just over 0.3 of a second.
On a 2-minute lap.
2:01.7 for Dovi compares with FP2 yesterday of 2 minutes, 0.897. So yesterday's FP2 was quicker than this. We've got qualifying still to come, remember. Qualifying 1 will be next. All live here on BT Sport. There's a good shot of the sponsors, freeze frame just for them.
Lorenzo trying to get some heat in that front, that hard front.
Oh, down on the deck.
That's Bradley, isn't it?
Smith has, he's got a hard front and a hard rear compound tyre on.
It's turning into a nasty home Grand Prix. Bradley is bottom of the timing screen.
He's having such a struggle.
He's having a tough time.
Let me ask you, Kevin, well, we've got 4 minutes just about to go. They fired his crew chief across and put Esteban Garcia in there as a process of elimination as to why Bradley Smith is not at the pace that he and they feel he should be at. They've moved his crew chief, Tom Yoyik, who was a very much respected man around the paddock and worked well with Bradley, but there's no fallout between those two. But the fact is that the team have decided, Pit Buyer has decided to put Esteban Garcia in Tom Yoyik's place as part of a process of elimination. What does that mean to you? Does it mean anything to you?
No, it probably just means that they're trying to figure out why Bradley's not running the same pace or closer to the same pace of what Paul Espargaro is. And you take the crew chief out of the equation. There you go.
It's not a race, it's FP4.
You take the crew chief out of the equation and know somebody who's run Callio and the test team for a while. You know, and then you just kind of put the burden back on Bradley. And I don't know, maybe a little bit of pressure for him is something that'll motivate Bradley. I don't see Bradley as a guy that needs somebody to light a fire under his butt to try and get him moving, but you never know. Maybe a new crew chief. Maybe those two guys sync really well together, and hopefully Bradley can start to perform.
You know that motorbike that Jorge didn't like?
Yeah.
It's going quite quickly.
Well, an angry Jorge.
It's usually a rapid Jorge.
What do you make of these aerodynamics then, Kevin? I mean, like, obviously people keep alluding back to the old days with the Suzuki. There was a little bit of a fin here and there, but it wasn't really aerodynamics, was it?
You know, I like the idea of something to help keep the front planted. You know, the front of the motorcycle is pretty much what limits you as grip starts to go away. And if you can do something to help the front of that thing stay stuck a little better and just ride it, but steer it with the back end, to me that sounds great. I haven't ever ridden one, so I don't know.
Jorge stuck with it, but the other Giganti guys have dispensed with it here.
Half second. 0.6.
Hello. Well, Dobby didn't have the wings. Jorge has got the wings, and look at the look on the faces. That was brilliant. They weren't happy at all, were they?
I think they're all going, huh?
Why?
Something about wings in there. Maybe it should be a Red Bull ad.
He did have the soft tyre in the rear.
And a hard in the front.
Yeah, whereas I think he had hard on the back of the bike that he ran out of sparks with.
Did it stop running on? Yeah.
So, Kevin, with a minute and a half to go, we're going to say thank you very much on behalf of BT Sport for joining us here in the commentary box, because as soon as this session finishes, we've got to get to a break so that we can get everything done with, and we wouldn't want to just leave you hanging in the air, because you are a legend, and we love having you around here as well. And if you're around at the weekend, you're always welcome to drop in with us. So say all of us, Jules.
Oh, it's one of the highlights of the year, and one of the true greats of the golden era of 500 racing.
Thanks, guys.
In the commentary box. A pleasure.
It's been great sitting in here with you, and as always, I learn something every time I sit down between you guys.
Yeah, it might not be relevant, but you might learn it.
But I still learn
It's usually
something.
where to go for dinner.
Great to have you with us, Kevin.
Where is dinner tonight?
It's on Julian. Great stuff then. Half a minute to go on this session, and we are at the end of FP4. I don't quite know what we may be able to discern there, but certainly a great ramble through MotoGP with Kevin Schwantz, and clearly working for a living nowadays.
The look of shock on an ex-motorcycle racer when they have to actually get a real job. It's terrible.
Well, the problem is he got off a plane just coming from Texas, and then has to drive himself up to Birmingham, of all places, to sort himself out. You know, and he's just lost the time. Kevin's just pointed out that...
And Rins, again, quicker than Iannone by over 1/10 of a second. Alex Rins, you know I was a fan of his in Moto 2, don't you? And he is proving to be a very good investment by Suzuki at the moment.
Flags out in FP4 as we go across the line then. Lorenzo on the Ducati has gone top in a 2:01.06. That is the fastest time of that session, and it is about 0.2 of a second outside of the fastest lap we've seen so far this weekend by Cal Crutchlow. So Lorenzo is on the pace, there is no doubt about it. Crutchlow 0.6 off, which surprises me slightly, but again, we don't know whether that was with a full tank of fuel, whether he was doing much of a race simulation. He was out there for quite a long time. I hadn't seen him come in the pit. So Crutchlow also in the mix. Marquez only fourth. Vinales, we saw him across the line a moment ago. A few more that have got to go through the checkered flag. Marquez is the first of them, stays in fourth place in this FP4 session. Remember, qualifying is coming up. We're not far away from the business end of Saturday. Our second day of the British Motorcycle Grand Prix live from Silverstone. As Kevin Swans almost mistakenly pointed out, half of it in Buckinghamshire and the other half in Northamptonshire. That was brilliant.
There's a
He's in a different
love,
county.
isn't there?
Well, it was actually when he said they're in another county. And he was right.
Rossi 9th in that session as second off, but hey, you know, what was going on there was that Ducati just rehearsing for qualifying. Here's Pedrosa finishing the... Where did Danny end up, Keith? I'm looking...
well, Scott Redding was 17th in that particular finish.
And Danny just in front of him.
Yeah, Danny Pedrosa only 16th. Bradley Smith off the back. Loris Baz right down there. Carol Abraham down there as well. Sam Lowe's 19th, 2:03.2. Let's have a look and see how that matches up. 2:03.2 is 0.2 quicker than he's gone all day. So that's a fantastic ride from Sam Lowe's, again improving. He can do without throwing at the scenery again. So as we look at a practice start from Marc Marquez and Cal Crutchlow, we'll take a very short break. When we come back, it's qualifying time for MotoGP.